Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Week 3, we're excited to have you here. Remember, we're going to start. Good morning. Remember, we're going to start with our parent meeting or adult meeting or older sister meeting, depending on who's here. And then our student meeting is going to be after. So our student meeting is at 12:15. Right now is our parent meeting or adult meeting. So everybody's welcome, but we just want you to know that we're starting with our adult meeting. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for those of you that have your cameras on. My goodness. Okay. All right, thank you. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes, let everybody in. Good to see everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Wendy, can you welcome everybody for just a second?
Sure. Welcome everyone. You do what you need to do. We'll be starting the student meeting immediately after this one, but this is parents first. So, but students are welcome to stay. But good morning and welcome. Thank you for coming. We'll be starting in just a couple minutes.
Okay. Whoops.
Good to see you all this morning. Hopefully staying cool.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, good morning. And yes, if you could put your name in the chat, that would be fantastic. My job today is the parent drawing, so I have to make sure to get everyone's names down, especially if it doesn't match your screen name, because I'm taking notes and also I want to make sure that I have everybody for the parent drawing today. So thank you all for coming, and we'll get started in just a minute.
And I did want to comment, there are a couple people, because we've been sending out your incentives in the mail. There are a couple people though that I had trouble matching with an enrollment. So yes, if you didn't get anything, you can email us and let us know. It can be because we had a hard time corresponding it with a student name and getting your address. So thank you for your patience with that. Also, we're relying on, I guess we call it snail mail these days, to send out your certificates. So they're coming because I've been working, sending them all out.
So thank you. And again, good morning. We'll start the student meeting after the parent meeting. Oh, I see a teddy bear even attending this one too. That's exciting. We'll get lots of people trained on ways to learn to read and write. That's awesome.
Okay. Give you about 1 more minute and then we'll get started. Thanks, everybody. Here we go. People are coming in. Good job. Good job. All right. Now, up until now, my screen has not been working to share. So we're going to all cross our fingers that when I go to share, it works. So thank you for your patience. I'm hoping. Mrs. Alton, am I on there?
You are.
Okay. All right. Welcome everybody today. Remember, we're starting with our parent meeting. So we're going to meet with adults. Students, you are more than welcome to stay and listen. And then after that, Mrs. Cook has a new game or activity for you today, and she's been working hard on it all week, and she's very excited to meet with you. Today, we're going to talk about independent reading. And by that, independent reading is when a reader can solve unknown words and make sense of the text independently. So we're going to talk to our adults and parents and sisters and brothers about how you can help your reader in your household become more independent. Then we're going to quickly go over the new games for the week. We actually have a digital game this week that you can add, and a little bit about our writing, and then we will go on and have our drawing. Okay, this week is Starbucks. So we're so glad that you came, and let's just kind of jump right in. As I mentioned before, independent reading is when a beginning reader can solve the unknown words on the page and also understand what they're reading independently. So in your summer literacy bag, there are a couple of materials that you can use for this. And you may already have used these because we're in our third week. So I think I might be a little behind with you. So you will either have 2 or 3 black and white books. Those are Fountas and Pinnell readers. And depending on your level, you might have gotten 2, you might have gotten 3. You also will have a couple of National Geographic books, those colored ones. And I think at this point, encourage you to go onto the Google Classroom, and because we have that whole digital library of books, so you'll have lots of choices. And furthermore, each week I'm adding a new level. So there are more levels to read if you've read through a lot of the books already. I want to give you a word of caution, because if you're reading a level 14 or below, it's very difficult to find good reading material. I think it's hard. Parents will always say, read at home, read at home. And then, well, what can we read? Because a lot of books are advertised as like beginning readers or step into reading. And really, often it's just bigger words, but they're not necessarily phonetically developmental at the right phonics level or also at the right reading level for your child. So it can get discouraging. There are a few series, and we're always happy to give advice on that. You can email either Mrs. Alton or myself, but I think until we get to about a level 14, where we kind of start with some biscuits and Pete the cat, below that, I think the Google Classroom books are probably your best bet. So let's talk a little bit about strategies. Oftentimes when a reader is beginning, we have 2 types usually. We have stop and look. And by that, I mean, when your young reader gets to a tricky word, they stop and they look at you for you to tell them the word. The other type of reader is called read and run. So they kind of run through it, adding words, whether they're correct or not, and there's no stopping them until they finish the book. So we're going to talk about how to handle both of those. I think the one thing I would like you to take from today is we really want to encourage our reader to use strategies on their own. We're going to kind of, independently, but we're going to kind of prompt them. In other words, we're going to give them some direction versus just telling them the word. Oftentimes what we do is our reader gets the word wrong, we just tell it to them. Gets it wrong, tell it to them. And what happens is they never learn how to solve it on their own. So we're going to talk about some strategies or ways to solve those difficult words. There are kind of 2 types of strategies. There are what we would call phonics-based strategies and meaning or context strategies. So let's start with the phonics, because we know unless a reader knows their letters and matching sounds, it's going to be tough to read. So if you're at a place where your child is still struggling with letters and sounds, let us know, because we can make some modifications to the program that will help you. If not, let's jump into these phonics strategies. So let's look at the first one, and I think you probably already know this one, sound it out. So if your child, let's right now start with our stop and look reader. They come to the hard word, they stop, they look at you, and instead of saying the word for them, you're going to say, well, wait, sound it out. And you look underneath there, look at the letters. Oftentimes what we as teachers do is we do something called finger spelling. Now, some teachers start with their thumbs, some teachers start with this, some teachers start with their pinky. Start with one of your fingers, and I might say, here we go. What sound matches the letter D? Duh. What about I? I, G. Let's put it together. Duh, I, G, dig. Good job. The fingers kind of help slow down and help them stretch out the sound. So, and it also adds a kinesthetic part to the learning. So sound it out. That's one phonics-based strategy. You can also say, look through the whole word. because oftentimes young readers will look at the first couple letters and make a guess. So for example, you can tell them, look at every letter or make every sound. And they might see the word class, or they might see the word clap, and they might say class. So then you would say, oh, wait a minute. Put your finger in the book on the word clap and say, look at every letter. I think you only looked at the first couple. Let's try again. And what you're doing is instead of like, wrong, you're kind of like, let's try again, trying to be encouraging, because believe it or not, they get discouraged. When they don't get the word right, it's hard for them and they get discouraged. Another phonics base is look for chunks you know. So there are chunks, small words within words, or there are also what we call word families, which are patterns of words that make this a predictable sound. So for example, let's say a child comes to the word hand and they don't know it. You can cover the letter H with your finger and say, what's that word? And hopefully if you've been working on those high frequency words, they'll say and then you can say, well, wait a minute, add before the word and. What is that? Hand. You got it. Or with the word more, you can say, do you see any little word in there? And you can cover up the M, cover up the E, and then you can say, what do you see? And they will say, or, and then you can say, let's add to the beginning, more. Oh, and that E is silent. So what you're really doing is training their eyes to look at the letters and the words in a more sophisticated way. You're getting them to look at parts, breaking, and to look carefully, not just at first glance. So it's definitely, it takes sometimes more than one, because you might say sound it out and look at the end of the word, or, it's not usually just one. And as we go on to the meaning strategies, you're going to kind of combine those. But we always want to make sure that the student looks back at the word on the page to make sure it matches what they say out loud. That's important. So remember, we're not going to just automatically give a word. If a child tries a couple prompts, you give them a couple prompts and they're still stuck, then go ahead. It's okay to give them the word. We're not saying never give them the word, because otherwise they'll be banging their head against the table. So it's okay to give them the word, but let them do a little bit of work first. So reading isn't just decoding. And I think I realized I just forgot to say about the definition of decoding. I apologize. Let me backtrack. Decoding has that word code. It's breaking the code of what all those letters and combinations of letters mean. So it's not just about breaking the code. It's also about making meaning. It has to make sense. So if you use those phonics-based strategies along with some meaning strategies or context, it really helps the child become independent. So for example, if you look at this, it says, we dig at the beach. Well, let's say your reader says, we dig at the breakfast. You might say, oh, wait a minute, look at the picture. And then they'll look at the picture and go, oh yeah, we dig at the beach. And you say, well, wait, let's double check. Does it match? And then you can work through those letters. Yeah, it matches. Good job. Or you might say, we dig at the breakfast. And you might say, wait a minute, that makes sense. And so they think and they say, oh, we dig at the beach. And again, you're going to say, oh, wait a minute now, does that match? Good job. So if we use these phonics-based strategies with a little bit of meaning or context and kind of put it all together, it really helps our child grow in the area of being independent. And you're training their brain to hear these prompts or cues. And eventually we want them to internalize. That means to almost like memorize them, so that when you're not there, they hear them. They almost hear your voice in their mind. Did that look right? Did that make sense? So it's like kind of like you're with them when they're reading on their own. And eventually this will become an automatic process. It's kind of like driving a car. You think when you first drive a car, you're like, oh, look, turn my signal on. And then after you've been driving for a lot of years, hopefully a lot of that comes naturally to you. It's the same with reading, that we're hoping that these strategies will become natural for them. let me add one more thing. Oh, you definitely will be using more than one strategy, but the most important piece is that you come back to the print and make sure that it matches. There's a fancy academic word. It's called cross-checking. And that means I check that the phonics are right and the meaning is right and that it goes together. So if all those other strategies were like, oh, that was a lot of stuff, you could just kind of come down to these 3 questions. Does it look right? Does it sound right? Does it make sense? Let's go back. We dig at the beach. If they say we dig at the breakfast, you could say, oh, wait, does that look right? No, let's check it. Let's work through those letters and sounds. Or they might say we digged at the beach. You could say, wait, does that sound right? Now, sometimes I'll be like, yeah. And you're like, uh-oh, what do I do now? Then you can say, well, actually, we don't say it like that. We say we dig at the beach. And then the last one, they might again say, we dig at the breakfast. And you could say, did that make sense? So you won't need to use all those questions, but if the strategies seem like a lot, you could just choose one question to ask that you think matches. If your child struggles with numerous words on a page, if you are having to stop for about 4 or 5 words in a page, that means that that level is just too tough right now. We're not expecting you to be reading teachers this summer. We want you to enjoy reading with your child. We want it to be positive. So just drop back a level, hop on that Google Classroom, drop back a level, and have fun with those books. Now, what about those read and run readers? Those ones who just don't stop. They just read the whole page almost faster than you can believe, or make, kind of adding words. So what I suggest, you don't want to constantly be interrupting their flow. Okay, so let's say they say, we dig at the breakfast, we had fun, we went swimming, and they come to the bottom of the page. So then you might say, you know what? Something didn't look right, and direct them back to that word. And again, work through that word. Don't let them turn the page with the kind of like that misunderstanding. If they're doing 4 or 5 words like that on a page, guess what? Let's drop back a level. As a reading teacher, we would address that, but we're not expecting you to be reading teachers this summer. We want this to be a profitable experience, but even reading at a lower level is going to strengthen their stamina and many other things. So yes, the level is important, but I think more of the time happily spent reading trumps trying to push up in the levels during the summer, because by doing this, you're also building your readers' reading stamina. And so then when they're back at school reading with their teacher, they're not tiring quickly and their teacher can push them a little bit harder. I'm going to stop right there because I gave you a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm going to ask Mrs. Alton, is there anything that I missed?
No, the only thing that I would add would be we're going to put these prompts in the Google Classroom. Are we going to add I'm not sure, are we going to add the slides, but we're going to have this for you so that if you don't remember exactly what she was saying, those will be in there for you.
Or you could watch the recording if you want.
Or you could watch the recording. Very true.
But you might want to print it out and have it next to you.
Yeah.
And I want to again say, it's okay if after a couple attempts, if you give a word, because it's different than just initially telling them the word, because you are training them to use these strategies, because they're going to have some things in their toolbox to shift them from that dependent reader to the independent reader. Okay, that was a lot. So if you have a question, you can jot it down. You can put it in the chat. And if we have a minute before we jump into our kids meeting, we can answer that. Or if you want to email, a lot of you parents have been fantastic. We've gotten some great emails with lots of questions, and we're trying to get back to you in a timely manner. So if it's something that, or you want to call, we're happy to call. We're just here to help you feel successful with this program. So, okay, so that was our independent reading section. So let's jump into next week. Oh, Jada, do you have your hand up? Did you have a question or your hand's just up? You have a quick question?
Actually, next year I'm going to a different school.
Well, I am sure there's someone that can help you at that new school. That's exciting, Jada. Thanks for sharing that. Good job. And nice job putting your mic on and off. Good work. Okay, so let's talk about our high frequency word games. Now, by this time, we're hoping you might need to retest. Okay, we're crossing our fingers. I've gotten several emails about parents that were excited that their young readers were grasping a lot of the high frequency words. So you want to make sure that with the game that you have 8 new working words, new words they're learning. But at this point, if you want to keep a few of those older words to make the game longer, maybe more fun to play, that's fine. You can keep maybe 10 of the older words if they know them like this, and you can build the deck for the game. It's up to you. But we want to make sure that we always have no more than 8 of those new words that they're working on. Okay. Then this week you also have the popcorn game where you're going to get to use this popcorn sheet, and in this bag, you should have some pop cards that are going to play for that game. Now, remember, you have the instructions to play that game in your folder, or you can watch the video on the Google Classroom. You also have another fun game called Roll, Say, Keep that I think you're going to like too, and there's a video for that. So those are our frequency word games. And then, let's see, and that, remember, there's our list. I apologize, that's last year's. The picture's different, but you have that. Then for your foundation work, you're still working on that phonemic awareness. That's like, who knows a word that starts with k, starts with k, starts with k. Those kinds of games where we're worrying about listening to sounds. Then you have Build a Word, which you played the first week of the program with the dice. It's a fun one. And then we have some phonics wheels. Now, these games are working on our vowels and letters and phonics. They're different than those high frequency ones who are working on those words. But Mrs. Alton's going to take a minute and she's going to explain the phonics wheels. So hold on, I'm going to stop sharing. This is a challenge for us. So hold on. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing, and then Mrs. Alton is going to hop on and show you the phonics wheels.
I am going to. All right, fingers crossed. Here we go. Oh, and I was practicing my phonics wheels, but let me just show you really quick where you find it. So this is so much fun. Your kids will just have a blast playing this game, and you will too. You'll feel like a game show host. I was going to say Wheel of Fortune, but Mrs. Albertoni told me no one knows what Wheel of Fortune is anymore.
Well, some people do. You have to be older.
Anyways, so it will be under, obviously, if you go into Google Classroom, under our week this week. And what we did here was there's several different wheels. So if you notice, they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those are kind of in levels of difficulty with the phonics kind of concepts. So you want to start with wheel number 1, and that CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant words. And if you click on it, it will give you a little synopsis, tell you a little bit about it, and just letting you know that in a CVC word, the vowel is going to make the short vowel sound. There are some nonsense words, otherwise known as pseudo words, whatever you want to call them. If for some reason you come across a word that doesn't make sense to you, or you're not sure how to pronounce, you can just skip that word and move on. But anyways, you're going to click on this and the exciting little wheel will come up. When you click to spin the wheel, it'll stop on a word. I'm going to show you this in a minute, and the word will pop up, and then confetti will go, and that happens pretty quickly. Not really a lot of time for your child to read the word right as it stops on it. So I'm going to recommend you wait till the confetti goes when you first start playing. So I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So here we go. You're going to click on it to spin. So exciting. And then it'll land on a word, and we got a nonsense word. So as you can see, the confetti comes up pretty quickly. So you can have your child, once the confetti goes, they can read the word odd, hod, obviously a nonsense word. If it's hard for them to read it on the screen, you can also write it down like on a whiteboard in front of you, larger, so they can tap, each letter and make the sound. Once they read the word successfully, then you hit remove and it takes it off the wheel, and you click the little X here, and then you take your next turn, and you can go until you have read all the words on the wheel if you want to. Also, if they start to get really good at it or you've played it a lot, you can try to have them read the words before the confetti flies once they get really good at it. But again, the idea is for them to just practice looking at that print, saying the sounds in the word, and having that phonics practice. So all of those are in the Google Classroom. Let me see if I can move this without trying to move this without moving it all around. Are in the Google Classroom, again in levels of difficulty, and so lots to practice and lots to choose from. Okay. Anything else I should add, Mrs. Albertoni?
No, I think, oh, and you also, when you guess the word, then you can click remove and you take the word off the wheel. And so then you continue until you don't have any words left on the wheel. And like we said, those nonsense words, if you're not sure and you land on it, you're not sure, like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to say that, just remove it and just do the words that are what we call real words. You add those nonsense words so that students can practice without more like memorization. But for some students, it's frustrating. So just do what works best for your child. Okay, I'm going to hop on and share then.
So I'm going to stop sharing. Yep.
Okay, look at this. This is a big deal that we were. Sorry, we're all excited. It only took us 3 weeks. Okay.
The little things.
Okay, there's our Build a Word game that also you can play this week. There's our phonics wheel. Oh, let's just talk a little bit about writing, and then we're almost done. Thank you for your patience. So this week, we were encouraging you to write a letter or a note. So this friend wrote a note, and I just want to make a little comment about it. So different people have different opinions. For me, if I'm going to write, let's say I'm just learning to write and I'm writing a story in my journal for myself, I'm not worried that I spell every single word right, because I'm going to read it and I might want to try some very difficult words. Okay. And so if it's just for me, it's okay if not everything's perfectly spelled. But for me, and I can ask Mrs. Alton her opinion too, because there's different people, even teachers think differently. If I'm going to send a letter to someone or a note, to me, it's important that everything is spelled right, because I want them to understand my letter. If I have some things not spelled correctly, they won't know what I mean. So in this little letter, there's just a couple things, the word very and the word fighting that this student wrote. So what you can do is, for your young writer, you can start what I call a sheet for tricky words. So your young writer can come and say, I'm not sure how to spell very. So you can put that on the tricky words list. And then every time after that, when that little writer says, hey, how do I spell very? You say, oh, isn't that on your tricky word list? Go look that up. And that way your writer has a whole bank of words that might be difficult. Very doesn't always follow the sounds. The word fighting can be tricky. So if you're like, I don't think we're up to the letter, you can just write a card. So if you'd like to send a card, I love you to someone, or thank you to someone, whatever works for your family, a card or a note this week is your assignment. Okay, there's our Google Classroom that we kind of already peeked at, right, Mrs. Alton? Oh, Jada, you've got your hand up again. What's up, quick, darling?
You spell love with an E.
Let's go back. Let's see. Oh, on this one? No, on the card?
You spell love with an E.
Yeah, I think there's a little E down there. I just think it's hard to see. It does say LOVE, but it's really small. And I'm glad you know that. Good job. Thanks for helping us. Okay, so here we go. All right, so please make sure that your child's first and last name is in the chat. The reason, again, we said that is because sometimes it doesn't correspond. It might say like Sarah's iPhone or whatever you're logged in on. In just a minute, or maybe she's ready right now, I'm going to hand it to Mrs. Alton. But before that, don't forget to fill out your calendar, because every day that you work, we want to know about it. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can email Mrs. Alton or myself. And if it has to do with technology, you might want to reach out to Mr. Granule about that. And don't forget to check the weekly s'more. Okay, I'm going to hand it to Mrs. Alton. She's going to end our meeting with the drawing. And then kids, you hold on. You're up next.
Okay, all right, you guys. I put all your names on paper, all the parent names, and I'm drawing for 2 things, Mrs. Albertoni.
We are Starbucks.
Okay.
2. Well, we could, yes, 2 Starbucks.
2. Okay, I just want to make sure before I drew my drawings. Okay. And now I will tell you what I tell my students. Names are tricky, so I will try my best to pronounce the name. Maribel Schenkel. Did I say that right? I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Because I can't see myself, but.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yay. Congratulations. Yay. Okay. Last one. Let's see. My little envelope here. Okay. Goldie Chan Gorham. Did I get that right? I hope so. So, yay.
Okay.
All right.
And hold on, students. So every student that comes, I have in and out, and I also have BJ. So you're just gonna have to wait and see which one you get. All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna check the chat real quick and see if there's anything I can answer, but I think we are going to stop sharing.